Today we're going to talk about equation applications. So this is us taking what we've learned and applying it to word problems. So these math problems are written in English. We're going to take the English and we're going to translate it into math. So twice a number means 2 times a number. We don't know what the number is, so we let it be x. Decreased by means subtraction. 17, and then this is my favorite word. That's my is, that's my equals. -3. And then it says find the number. So now all I have to do is solve for x. So I'm going to add 17 to both sides. Divide by 2. And x is 7. So I set up a math problem to solve it, and then I solved the math problem. Number 2, the sum of 3 consecutive integers is 279. Okay, here's my is. This is my favorite word. That means equals. Sum, that means plus. 3 consecutive integers. Integers just means numbers. It's just a fancy vocabulary word for numbers. 3 consecutive. If you win 3 consecutive baseball games or football games, then you've won 3 games in a row. So 3 consecutive integers means we have 3 numbers in a row, like 5, 6, 7, or 14, 15, 16. So 3 consecutive numbers in a row. But the problem is I don't know what they are. So I'm going to let the first one be x. Well, the next one is always going to be 1 more than that, so x plus 1. And then the third one is going to be 2 more than the original. So again, if the first number was 5, 5 plus 1 would be 6, and 5 plus 2 would be 7, and that would give me 5, 6, 7, 3 consecutive numbers. But I don't know what these numbers are. But I know that the sum of all 3 of them is 279. So here's the first one, and then I'm going to add the second one, and then I'm going to add the third one, and it's going to equal 279. Now all I have to do is solve it. Well, I have like terms. I don't need to move them, I just need to combine them, so that would give me 3x, and then the 1 and the 2 would give me a 3. And then I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. And then I'm going to divide by 3. And that's going to give me 92. So 92 is my first number. So what's my next number? 93. And my third number, 94. Then you've got to go back and read the question. Sometimes they want all 3 numbers. Sometimes they want the smallest one. Sometimes they want the biggest one. This says find the numbers. So it wants all 3 numbers. So it wants 92, 93, and 94. So that's your answer. What is the largest? That's important. What is the largest of 3 consecutive positive integers? Positive just means they're not negative. If the sum of the smaller 2 is 11. So I have 3 consecutive positive integers. So I have x plus 1, and I have x plus 2. I want the largest. I want this guy. But the equation says, starts right here, it says the sum of the smaller 2. Well, that's this one and this one. Those are the smaller 2. So the sum of the smaller 2, so x plus, because that's what sum means, x plus 1 is, that's my equals, 11. Well, how am I going to find the biggest one if I'm using the smaller 2 in the equation? Well, let's just solve this first. So x and x gives me 2x. Plus 1 equals 11. Subtract 1, so 2x equals 10. Divide by 2, x equals 5. Is that my answer? No. 5 is x. That's this guy. So this guy's 6, and this guy is 7. What did the question ask for? What is the largest? So what's my answer here? My answer is the 7. That's the only answer they want. So a lot of students miss this because they solve this and they get here and they stop because they think they've solved it. Well, you have solved the problem, but you haven't answered the question. So you always make sure that you go back and read the question and make sure you've solved it. Number 4, find 4 consecutive odd integers. Odd. Now, odd numbers are not 1 digit apart. Odd numbers are 2 digits apart. If I look at 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, those are all odd numbers. And you can see that these are all 2 digits apart. So if my first one's x, my next one's not going to be x plus 1. It's going to be x plus 2. Then my third one's going to be x plus 4. And I have 4 numbers, so I need one more. X plus 6. So these are my 4 consecutive odd numbers, and the sum of all of them is, there's my equals, 216. So I have to add all 4 of these together. So the first one plus the second one plus the third one plus the fourth one equals 216. Okay, all the actions over here on the left. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 x's. Then I have a 2 and a 4, that's 6. Plus 6 is 12. Equals 216. I'm going to subtract the 12 over 204. Divide by 4. 51. And he's odd. That's good, because if he was even, something's wrong, because it says they're supposed to be odd. Now, who is this? This 51 is this number right here. So who's next? It's not 52, because remember, we're adding 2. So he would be 53, and then 55, and then 57. Okay, now stop and go back and make sure you answer the question. It says find 4 consecutive odd integers. So it wants all 4. So it wants the 51, the 53, the 55, and the 57. The sum of 3 consecutive even numbers is 48. So I have 3 of them, and they're even. Well, here are your even numbers. How far are they apart? They are all 2 digits apart. So even numbers set up just like odd numbers. I have 3 of them. So the first one's going to be x. The next one's going to be x plus 2. And the third one's going to be x plus 4. So even and odd integers are both 2 digits apart. It says the sum of all 3 of them is 48. So the sum of all 3 of them is 48. So I have 1, 2, 3 x's. The 2 and the 4 gives me a 6. Subtract 6 from both sides. 42. Divide by 3. X equals 14. So that's this guy. He's 14. So he is 16. And he is 18. Now go back and read the question. What did it want? Well, it says what is the largest of these numbers. So which one does it want? It just wants the 18. It doesn't want the 14 or the 16. You want to buy 1 pair of pants and several pairs of socks. The pants cost $24.95 and the socks are $5.95 a pair. How many pairs of socks can you buy if you have $50 to spend? So to set my equation up, I have $24.95 for the pants. Because I want 1 pair of pants. So I'm only going to spend $24.95 one time. But I want several pairs of socks. It doesn't say how many, but I know that they are $5.95 per pair. So I put the X variable there so it lets me know I can stick any number in there and multiply by $5.95 to get the total amount for the socks. I have 50 bucks. I can't go over 50 bucks. So let's see how much I can spend. So 1 pair of pants for $24.95, $5.95 for each pair of socks. Going to add this together because that's my total. And I need it to not be bigger than 50. So to solve for X, I'm going to subtract the $24.95. So 595x equals, use my calculator, 50 minus 24.95 is $25.05. And then I'm going to divide by 595. And that gives me 4.21 and some change. So is this $4.21? Is this 4 pairs of socks? Do I round up and go 5 pairs of socks? What's the deal here? Well, to spend 50 bucks, remember that X represented the number of socks. So I can get 4 pairs of socks and part of another pair of socks. But in the store, can you buy part of another pair of socks? No. So I round down. I can only buy 4 pairs of socks. Even if I had gotten like 4.9, I don't have enough money for 5 pairs of socks. So I would still go down to 4 socks because I don't have enough for that 5th pair. Almost, but not quite. You billed your neighbor $52 for work you did around his house. Material cost 16 bucks and you charged $4 an hour. How many hours did you work? I billed my neighbor $52. That's the equals. I charged him $52. Materials cost me 16 bucks. That's a flat charge. That doesn't vary. I went to Lowe's and I spent 16 bucks. I charged him $4 an hour. So I'm add to this $4 per hour, but I don't know how many hours I worked. So that's where I put my variable. And then it says how many hours. So I want to solve for X. So I'm going to subtract the 16. That's 36. Divide by 4. 9. I worked 9 hours. If the length of a rectangle is 6 feet more than twice the width. If the length is 24 feet, what is the width? Okay, remember that is my favorite word, and that's your equals. So there's your equals. The length of a rectangle is L equals. And I always do a cursive L so it doesn't look like a 1. 6 feet more than, 6 feet plus, 6 feet more than, bigger, increased by. Twice the width. A lot of people skip over this. Twice the width means 2 times the width. So there's my equation. But the next sentence, it tells me a very important piece of information. It tells me that the length is 24 feet. Well, what do I do with that? Well, if you look in this equation, you have an L. So you can now replace this L with a 24 because I know the length is 24. So 24 equals 6 plus 2W. And then to solve this for W, I'm going to subtract 6. And 24 minus 6 is 18. Divide by 2. W equals 9. It's an equation, so I don't care that the W is on the right-hand side. And it says, what is the width? The width is 9 feet. Elise and Abby are both saving money for their trip. The table below shows the models for the amount of money Elise and Abby saved after X weeks. After how many weeks will Elise and Abby have the same amount of money? What does same mean in math? It means equals. All right, so let's look at Elise. Here's Elise's equation. How much money is Elise starting with? She is starting with 20 bucks. She has put 20 bucks in her bank account. And then X represents weeks. So what's happening to Elise's bank account every week? She's putting in an extra $5. Now Abby didn't have as much money to start with. She only started with $2. But what's Abby doing every week? She's putting in $11. So Elise starts out with more money, but Abby is saving more money each week. So at the beginning, Elise has more money, but Abby's going to gain on her and eventually pass her. So we want to know when they are the same. So we're going to take these two equations and set them equal to each other and see when they are the same. So 5x plus 20 equals 11x plus 2. I'm going to get my x's on the same side, so I'm going to subtract my 11x over. That gives me a negative 6x plus 20 equals 2. Then I'm going to subtract my 20. And that gives me negative 6x equals a negative 18. Divide by negative 6. X equals 3. So what does this mean? This means it takes 3 weeks for their two bank accounts to be the same. What's going to happen after that? Abby's going to have more money because she is now past Elise and she's going to be saving more money each week. Chris needs to rent a moving truck. Suppose Company A charges a rate of $40 per day and Company B charges $20 per day, plus a flat $60 fee up front. For what number of days is the cost of the two companies the same? What does same mean? It means equal. So let's find a Company A equation. Company A charges $40 per day. That's it, $40 per day. But Company B says, well, we'll charge you less per day. We'll charge you $20 per day, but we're also going to charge you a flat $60 one-time charge up front. So Company B is charging you more to start with, but less per day. So Company B is more expensive to start with. Company A is only charging $40 per day. That's it. We want to know when they are the same. So we're going to take these two and set them equal to each other. And solve for x and c when they're the same. So I'm going to subtract my 20x. So 20x equals 60. Divide by 20. X equals 3. So after 3 days, they're the same. Now, what happened before that? Well, before that, Company B is more expensive because they're charging this up front. But after 3 days, Company A becomes more expensive because they're charging $40 per day and Company B is only charging $20 a day. David and Isabella are planning a family reunion. They are trying to decide between two locations. Old Mill Pond will charge them $300 for the use of the grounds and $6.25 per person for refreshments. Long Lake Park will charge them $200 for the use of the grounds, but will charge them $750 per person for refreshments. For what number of people will the two locations cost the same? Okay, so we have Old Mill Pond and we have Long Lake Park. So let's set up an equation for Old Mill Pond. So what are they going to charge us? They're going to charge us $300 flat to use the grounds, and then they're going to charge us $625 per person for refreshments. So $300 flat plus $625 per person. So that's the one that gets the X. Long Lake Park charges $200 for the use of the grounds, but they're going to charge us $750 per person. So Old Mill Pond is more up front but less per person, and Long Lake Park is less up front but more per person. And we want to know when they're going to cost the same, and we know that same means equals. So we're going to take these two equations and we're going to set them equal to each other. Okay, to solve this, I'm going to get my x's together first. So I'm going to subtract my 750x. So 300. That's going to be minus $1.25. And then I'm going to subtract my 300. So negative $1.25x equals negative 100. And then I'm going to divide by negative $1.25. And that's going to give me 80. So for 80 people, these two places would be the same amount of money. Okay, now go back here. And that's your answer. 80 is your answer. But go back up here to the top. Which one is more cost effective, cheaper, for a small amount of people? Well, that would be this one, because they're charging you less up front, even though they're charging you more per person. But once you get over 80 people, this one's going to be more efficient. Even though they're charging you more up front, they're charging you less per person. Number 13, the student council at your school is planning a fall formal dance and dinner and dance. They have gathered the following information about costs associated with the dance. So we got to pay the custodian $200 to clean up. We got to pay the DJ $300. The dinner is $10 per person. So that cost depends on how many people come eat. Other food and drink, we're going to have hors d'oeuvres and punch off to the side. That's $5 per person. Suppose the total cost was $1,250. How many people came to the dance? So let's think about this. The custodian was $200 flat. It doesn't matter how many people were there. The DJ was $300 flat. It doesn't matter how many people were there. But the dinner was $10 per person, so he gets an X. And the other food and drink is $5 per person. So this represents my cost. And then they told me that we spent $12.50 on the dance. So now all I have to do is solve this for X, and it's going to tell me how many people were there. So here's my wall. Everything on the left-hand side I can just kind of add together if they're like terms. So I've got the 200 and the 300, that's 500. And the 10x and the 5x, that's 15x. And that equals the 1250. Subtract the 500. So 15x equals 750. Divide by 15. We had 50 people at the dance. In Chapel Hill, there are 2 tutoring companies, Smarty Pants and Nerds R Us. The charges for Smarty Pants are represented by the function f of x equals 50 plus 10x. So $50 up front and $10 per hour. Nerds R Us charges are represented by the function f of x equals 40 plus 20x. So $40 up front, but $20 an hour. Write a function that represents the total cost for both tutoring companies. Well, this is not same. This is not equals. This is total cost. Total cost means add them together. So I'm going to take Smarty Pants and I'm going to add to it Nerds R Us. Now, if you'll remember back to the first day of school, we did this with a plus sign in the middle. So you just add your like terms. So I've got the 50 and the 40. That's a 90. And the 10x and the 20x, that's a 30x. If you wanted to rewrite it and put the 30x in the front, it is no different. It's totally fine if you want to write it that way. So that represents the total cost. If you want to go T for total cost, that would be fine, but you don't have to. Number 15, there were 2.6 inches of rainfall today. The total precipitation for the month is now 8.2 inches. Which equation could be used to determine the amount of precipitation before today? So we have 8.2 inches now, and there were 2.6 of it today. So if you just think about this logically, well, you should just subtract these. Okay, but we want an equation that represents this. So the total month is before today plus today. Well, today was 2.6. I have no idea what before today was. What's my total? Well, that's 8.2. So which equation up here shows you before today, which we don't know, plus today, which was 2.6, equals the 8.2. C. Joe bought 6 chairs and 1 table. 6 chairs and 1 table. Without tax, the total was $154.50. Which equation could be used to determine the price for each chair if the table cost $38? 6 chairs, and I don't know their price, so 6 chairs plus 1 table, and I know the table was $38. The total was $154.50. So which equation up here represents that? And that would be C. The temperature stayed below 0 degrees all day. Which inequality represents this situation? Well, below means less than. So I'm going to take out the ones that say greater than. So what is the difference between A and C? Well, A has the equal to on it and C does not. If it says it stayed below 0 degrees, does that mean it actually became 0 degrees? Or did it stay below 0 degrees? And the answer is it stayed below it. It is not equal to, so it can't be this one. Just below 0. Kim finds a mail order company that sells compact discs for $14.95 plus shipping and handling charges of $8. She has $100 to spend. Let N represent the number of compact discs, which inequality shows that she can spend at most $100. She's $100. She can't spend more than that. So do we want a less than $100, a less than or equal to $100, a greater than $100, or greater than or equal to $100? Well, if you only have $100, you can't spend greater than. So these are out. I can spend up to $100. Now I can spend $98 or $99 or $56, but I can't go over $100. Can I actually spend $100? Yes, I have it. I can actually spend $100. So which one of these has the correct inequalities? And it looks like this one and this one do. So he is out, he is out, and he is out. What is the difference between B and C? Let's see. We are going to buy these compact discs for $14.95 per compact disc. So that's why the N is there. Then this one has a -8 and this one has a +8. What did the 8 represent? Plus shipping and handling. Well, you have to add that to your cost. So that's why it's C, because we need the plus sign. Jamie receives $100 per week plus 2% of his sales. He wants to earn at least $600 per week. If you want to earn at least $600, that's $600 or more. So that's greater than or equal to $600. So I'm going to take this guy out because he's just greater than. He's a less than. He's a less than. He's a greater than or equal to. I like that. And he's a less than. I want to earn at least $600. Now, tell me why we have a 0.02 right here. 2%. 2% as a decimal is 0.02. So that's why they scooted the decimal twice. But again, at least $600. Think about it. If you're going to go shopping, you're going to spend at least $600. That's more than or equal to $600, and that's why we have the greater than.